Professional wrestler Zan Phoenix is a member of the Rev Pro Portsmouth School of Wrestling and wrestles on a weekly basis at various events around the country. During one of her Sunday morning training sessions, Zan spoke exclusively to AB Videography about her wrestling, starting with what got her into the sport in the first place.
Okay, so I didn't start watching wrestling until maybe mid-teens, which I think is probably a bit later for everyone else. But yeah, I sort of watched it and always got that buzz afterwards. You know, when you finish watching something, you're like, yes, I really, really want to do this. And it sort of built from there. So I was sort of watching it, I'm like, yeah, I love this. But unfortunately, I'd suffered a back injury around that time in a hockey match, and I wasn't sure what sports I was going to be able to get back into at that point. So it was very much like 5 or 6 years of watching, really wanting to do it, but not quite knowing if I could. And then when I moved to Portsmouth, obviously there's schools around the corner from me, and I was told actually the first thing you're going to do is start taking some bumps in the ring, so you'll get to know if your body can sort of do this. So I sort of took my bumps and no problems whatsoever and didn't look back.
Although she couldn't say exactly why she enjoys wrestling, Zan did explain what was so special about it for her personally.
It's hard to pinpoint, but it's walking through. As soon as I walk through the curtain and you're out there and you're doing the wrestling, I love it. I absolutely love it. Sometimes you have doubts, like when you're training, you're getting frustrated because you're not getting where you want to be, or you're not getting the moves right, or it can be very frustrating when you're like, I really want to get to here, and you're just not getting there. But I've always said, like, as soon as I walk through that curtain, it just reminds me of why I want to do it. And if I ever feel down about wrestling or feel like actually this isn't working, I just think I need that show. I know I've got a show coming up. I know as soon as I walk through, everything's going to change. I'm going to remember why I'm doing it, and that passion is going to come back. So yeah, it's hard to pinpoint exactly what it is, but when you're out there, it's just an amazing feeling.
Wrestling isn't the only sporting activity that Zan has done in the past. She was also a keen hockey player and enjoyed acrobatic sports, including gymnastics, which she often brings into wrestling itself.
So I always used to love sports at school, so I was very much like whatever was in season. So you have like your athletic season, your hockey season, and I always used to join in netball or anything really. I'd done gymnastics, and then after the back injury, the only thing I really found that I couldn't do was hockey, because it was sort of leaning to one side all the time. But it was still a bit of a shock because I've never come across a sport that I couldn't physically do. I've always be like, oh yeah, that's okay, I'll give it a go. Maybe not my favourite sport, but I've never just had to remove myself from a sport completely. And now the main sports I focus on are wrestling and the aerial. So I do like aerial hoop, aerial silks, aerial hammock, and pole, and that's just amazing. It's a real challenge. I sometimes compete, and I do sometimes do the shows for them as well. And there's some crossover wrestling, like the shows are sort of performing, but yeah, it's very different as well, so it's nice. The contrast is nice. I really like to try and get a mix, so I like to try and bring a bit of acro into it and sort of use my strengths, as it were, but I like to do the power moves as well. I've always had the strength from the aerial, but I found like doing like a lot of CrossFit and changing my gym workout a lot really helped sort of build that up, so I could sort of get the girls up and lift the girls and the guys as well. I really like having like a mix, and also it's good for me if I'm sort of wrestling someone a lot bigger than me, then I sort of tend to go to a sort of different sort of style of wrestling. If I'm wrestling someone smaller, so it's nice to have that sort of, switch here and switch there, and yeah.
Zan doesn't have any particular favourite move, but she explained that she has moves that she can rely on and often uses in her matches.
I have ones that maybe I go to that I feel like ones that I know I can hit on whatever sort of type of person I'm wrestling. But yeah, so I sort of have ones that I get quite sort of like, oh yeah, I can hit that here, and I can, regardless of their size. And I do love coming off the top rope. That's sort of like the perfect sort of ending to, or even mid-match, I just like climbing up and be like, yes, I'm gonna go like fly through the air right now. So yeah, but I really like to mix it up, and yeah, there's no sort of set favourites, but there are sort of ones maybe I sort of go to a little bit more than others.
Independent wrestling in the South has quite a lot of interest at the moment, with several different promotions, including Revolution Pro Wrestling, and there are usually shows on every week. Zan talked about how many matches she usually took part in.
I tend to do about one show every weekend. I love that to pick up. You know, you have other people, maybe like potentially you could sort of end up doing maybe 3 shows. You know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It does tend to be weekends. But yeah, I typically do sort of at least one show a weekend, which is really nice. So you always got something to look forward to at the end of the week. And then obviously over the summer and Easter holidays, you tend to have a lot of camps. So when I done a summer run, we're sort of doing 7 to 8 shows a week, and it was so much fun. It was like just being this whole different world. You're just like sort of driving to another show. Sometimes you're doing 2 shows a day, so you get the ring down, you drive to the next show, you set the ring up, you do the next show, and yeah, that was just an amazing experience. It was a lot of fun to be doing it. And then you get to the end of the summer, you're like, oh, okay, this is just like back to one show a week then. So you do spend time, Easter holidays, summer holidays, you tend to pick up a lot more shows, and it's something to look forward to.
In order to compete in such an intense sport, Zan and other pro wrestlers must stick to a strict training plan and make sure that everything they do in the ring avoids any long or short-term injuries.
Here at Rev Pro, we have training on Wednesday evening, Saturday daytime, and Sunday daytime, and that's obviously a lot of sort of, you do your warm-ups, you do your mat work, you'll sort of learn to do moves that you can bring into a match, and alongside that, depending on where you want to go, so like I said, I tried to start working towards the power moves, so you need to look at what you need to be doing outside of that. So that's why I started doing a lot of CrossFit, changing my gym workout. And then with the, so I train everyone as well, like typically I train 3 hours a day. And then because I wanted to sort of bring some of that acro sort of style into the wrestling, it was sort of bringing up my gymnastics again, so sort of tendon gymnastics, the style of that training again. So yeah, you have your sort of standard training, but you kind of want to add on that and you want to build it, and then depending where you want to go, sort of depends on what sort of training you would do outside of wrestling to be able to bring that back into it.
Zan also spoke about how much she felt during the matches and whether the various bumps and impacts hurt more during or after a match.
I always say if you feel it in a match, that's a bit worrying because you think, oh no, that's going to hurt tomorrow. You don't tend to notice it. Like occasionally you might land a bit badly and you're like, yeah, I definitely felt that in the match. But yeah, typically you don't. And it really is, here you learn how to land, you learn how to bump properly, and that's a key part of it because obviously you're bringing that to the matches, you're going to be landing, you're going to be bumping. And if you're doing that safely, then yeah, like I said, during the summer we're doing like 7-8 shows a week, so you're wanting to make sure you can land safely because you don't want to sort of injure yourself and not be able to continue. So it does put your body through a lot, and I think you have got to bear that in mind. I'm quite good at sort of going to physio appointments if I've got like a little bit of a twinge, or getting sports massages. So yeah, I think as much as you can train for it, you have got to appreciate you're putting your body through a lot, and I think it's worth it, but I think you have got to sort of be kind to your body as well, and sort of make sure you're sort of putting a little bit back in to sort of make sure you're okay.
Zan explained that if you looked after your body well enough, you could enjoy a long wrestling career.
I think you can definitely have a long career. I do think you do need to, like I said, you do need to look after yourself. Even things like, making sure you're stretching. A lot of people start doing yoga alongside it to make sure they're sort of really stretching their bodies and looking after their bodies. And like I said, the things like the massages and if you're injured, getting the advice on what to do with the injury. And I think there's sort of things you need to do to have a longer career. Obviously, sometimes, unfortunately, you might get an injury that sort of ends it quite quickly. And I, hope that never happens to me. And I feel very sorry for the people it does happen to. But yeah, I think it's definitely possible to have a long career as long as you're looking after yourself.
She then discussed the origins of her Phoenix style, which led nicely into the next question about where she wants to go in the future.
That originally came from me watching Gladiators as a kid, and I was like, I want to be a gladiator, I'm going to be Phoenix, the gladiator. And then as I continued, all my friends always said, actually, whenever you take a hit, you just come back. Like, I've never seen anything like it. You just never let anything stop you. And it kind of just became this thing that sort of stuck with me, and I got like a phoenix tattooed on my arm, and everyone's like, oh my God, that's really appropriate for you, actually, because you're always someone that gets hit and comes back. So then I really brought that into wrestling, and just thought, actually, this is what I want to sort of bring to wrestling. And I think you do get a lot of knocks in wrestling. You can work as hard as anything, and you're not necessarily going to get to where you want to go. I think if you work hard enough, you'll always get somewhere, but it's so unpredictable. It might not be the time you want to get there, or I think you certainly get a lot of knocks in wrestling. I think Phoenix is very appropriate to keep coming back from the knocks. Like I say, it's really unpredictable, and there's just so many different paths to go down with wrestling. I'm a great believer, if you work hard enough, you will get there. But ultimately, you need someone to put that faith in you, and you just don't know what company or who that person is going to be to be like, that's the wrestler I want in my promotion. That's the wrestler I want, heading my promotion. You just don't know who's going to be that person that puts faith in you. I don't know which path I'm going to go down. I hope, I know I'm going to enjoy it. I love wrestling. I think if you work hard enough, you'll get somewhere eventually. But where it would be, I don't know. As long as I enjoy the journey on the way, then that's all that matters to me.
To really put her on the spot, we then asked Zan if she could name her favourite opponent, and also what her favourite experiences in her career so far had been.
I don't know. That is really putting me on the spot. I think Rishi Ghosh will always have that little, because he was the first person I've ever wrestled and ever debuted, and that was on the Rev Pro show. So I think that will always, and also getting to wrestle my trainer Andy Simmons, that would, like, little marks, like, to hear me was like, oh, it's just another match, but to you, you're like, oh my God, I'm getting to wrestle my trainer, and you get that little bit of nerves again. You're like, oh God, I really hope I don't muck this up. So there's probably, like, and the same for Rishi, he's probably like, oh, I've wrestled loads of people, but to me that was my first match, so that will always probably have that little special thing to me. And there's been so many amazing females as well that I've wrestled. It's always nice to wrestle the American talent as well, because it's sort of one of those experiences, like, oh, I don't know if I'm ever going to get to wrestle you again. Recently I wrestled Giselle Shaw and Shotzi Blackheart, and that was brilliant, because I'm just like, oh, you just don't know when those opportunities are going to come, or if they're going to, like, coincide with a show you're on. So it's always fun to sort of wrestle international talent as well. I love, it's been so many. It's always obviously amazing to be, like, get the first. Like, I was the first female to debut on a Rev Pro show. I became the first female to, so that was an intergender match. Then I became the first female to be in a females match on a Rev Pro show. I was the first female to win the Rev Pro Rumble. So getting those first are always, that is always going to have, like, a little, like, yes, this is amazing. And then recently I wrestled in Torquay for Ali P, and we were the first females to headline the show. So the first are always just like, oh, this is so cool. There's been, like, some amazing experiences along the way. Even, I trained with Brian Kendrick in America for a month with his school. So things like that, it's been nice to, there's loads and loads of fun things that have come out of wrestling so far, really positive experiences.
To finish, Zan talks about what is coming up for her in the next few weeks and months.
Obviously it's Easter holidays, so we've got, like, quite a lot coming up. We've got with Main Event Megastars, we've got the Chesel show in Weymouth, so it's like a little camp, which is always fun. And obviously the massive first female match for the title at Main Event Megastars on Tuesday, and that's in Petersfield. So so it's the first women's title, and that will be against Astrid, which obviously I've wrestled her before. She is a tough opponent, so I think it's going to be, whatever happens at the end, I think it's going to be like I feel proud of that match, hopefully. So.
Later tonight, Zan takes on Astrid the Viking to become the first ever Megastars Women's Champion. To keep up with her progress, please like her official Facebook account, and don't forget to check out the Portsmouth School of Wrestling as well.